Today, we're opening up a question that I think is foundational to how we think about achievement.
Right.
Why is it that some people seem to just catch lightning in a bottle, while others, they struggle for decades and never quite, break through?
It's so easy to just dismiss success as luck or, genetics or being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, circumstance.
But our source material today, and it's a really deep, detailed look into a turning point for this one entrepreneur, it suggests a much more systematic and, well, frankly, a much more mechanical answer.
And that answer gets distilled into this one thesis that is, on one hand, so simple, but on the other, it's profoundly difficult to really accept.
It is.
You don't decide your future. You decide your habits and your habits. They decide your future.
It just completely removes that concept of arbitrary fortune, doesn't it?
It does.
It reframes the whole idea of success as an inevitable outcome of a process. It's not some sudden event.
Right. Not a lottery ticket.
Exactly. When you look closely at the data in the source, it shows us that no one succeeds or fails overnight. Success, in its purest form, is just the accumulation. It's the sum of these tiny efforts repeated day in and day out.
The daily routine.
The compound interest of discipline. That's it.
So our mission today is to give you a shortcut, a kind of highly condensed look at the actual mindset, the action blueprint that's required to move from, say, chronic failure to sustained success.
And we're doing that by deep diving into these 10 essential habits that this one specific entrepreneur who had famously failed 13 separate businesses.
13, that's a lot.
It's a crushing number. But these are the habits he learned, adopted, and implemented to finally get his breakthrough.
And what makes his case study so powerful, I think, is that it wasn't abstract.
No, not at all.
The habits weren't aimed at, general happiness or vague wealth.
Right. They were structured around a highly specific, very tangible goal, buying a particular sports car, the RX-8 Mazda.
A very specific car.
And this entire transformation was sparked by this critical intervention from his first major mentor, a man named Alan.
And we should set the scene here. When this whole journey began, the subject was in his 20s, and he was just defined by struggle.
Yeah. 13 failures is a heavy weight. It's where most people would just give up.
For sure. So we're starting right there at the bottom, that critical moment where the trajectory it had to change. Okay, so let's unpack this. We're starting with what the source suggests is the single hardest habit to adopt. And it's because it requires you to swallow a massive amount of pride.
It really is.
Habit number 1, radical ownership.
This is that huge mindset shift you need after facing, devastating defeat, like failing 13 times.
And when you fail that many times, your brain is just wired to protect itself, right? It looks for external reasons.
It's a defense mechanism. It's trying to preserve the ego. The source recounts the very first meeting with the mentor, Alan. And when Alan asked, "So what's the problem?" the entrepreneur didn't talk about his own strategy.
No, he talked about the external world. He went straight to the blame game.
Right.
And this is where the specifics in the source material really resonate. It wasn't just a generalized complaint like, oh, things are tough.
No, he had concrete targets for his blame. He had a list.
He did. Customers were cheap.
Government taxes were too high.
The overall economy was bad.
Yeah.
He basically presented this whole thesis to Alan that said, everything is not working and it's because of them.
And Alan's response, according to the source, was it was so blunt, it just cut right through all that denial.
What did he say?
He said, and this is a quote, "Unless and until you take 100% responsibility for your own life, you're not going to be successful."
Wow. I mean, think about the psychological impact of hearing that, especially when you're already feeling hurt and defensive from years of failure.
Oh, you'd want to argue immediately.
Of course, you'd want to bring up the bad partners, the market crash you didn't see coming, the clients who paid late.
And the source admits that at first he thought, okay, maybe he's 50% right. But Alan wouldn't allow any percentage less than 100.
100%, no wiggle room.
0. Because it wasn't about moral blame, it was about agency. It was about control. Alan immediately pivoted to the choice element.
He asked him, did you choose to start those businesses?
Did you choose those partners? Did you choose how you spent your time, your money, how you developed your skills?
Right. The mentor's point was simple. Even if the economy is bad, you chose to start a business in that specific economy.
Every single decision, every strategy, every late night, every dollar spent, it was fundamentally your choice.
And that insight is so crucial because it takes the power back from all those external circumstances.
Absolutely. It changes the whole equation from things happen to me to I make things happen.
That's the core realization.
Yeah. When you take radical ownership, you internalize that maxim that, the buck stops with me.
And the source gives you this really pithy, almost uncomfortable phrase to memorize.
Blame people, blame people.
Exactly. It's designed to be a trigger. The choice becomes binary.
You can spend your limited time and energy trying to make money and produce results. Or you can spend that same time and energy blaming others.
And the source is clear. The two are mutually exclusive. You cannot do both successfully.
So when you step back and think about the gravity of this, taking 100% responsibility means if your goal isn't achieved, the fault is entirely within your strategy or your effort or your skill set.
All things you can change.
All things you can change. It's a huge mental burden, for sure, but it's also the key to psychological liberation.
It is the ultimate shift in your locus of control.
It means acknowledging that deep truth. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. You simply cannot move forward until you accept that you are the captain of your own ship, no matter how rocky the seas are.
So once that difficult but necessary foundation of ownership is laid, the next logical step has to be destination planning.
Right. If I'm responsible for where I go,
then I need to know precisely where there is. Which brings us to habit number 2, deciding exactly what you want.
and the source material is very clear on this. The vast majority of people fail to get what they want, not because they lack effort, but because their goals are just. They're undefined.
They aim for richness or success.
Which are abstract concepts. You can't build a roadmap to vague wealth.
So Alan's challenge to the entrepreneur was to define a goal that was so specific, so tangible, you could see it, you could measure it.
And the answer wasn't a yacht or a mansion. It was the RX-8 Mazda.
And we really need to linger on the specificity here. This wasn't just a nice sports car.
No, it had to be red. It had to have the rotary engine. I mean, the detail was almost excruciating.
And that detail, that specificity, that's the mechanism that actually makes the goal effective. It serves a few vital functions.
First, it's a motivation anchor. The entrepreneur's bigger goal was providing for his mother, which is noble, but it's maybe a little too abstract for that daily grinding energy you need.
But the red RX-8,
That was a constant, visible, tangible symbol of what the daily grind was actually paying for.
yeah,
It's just easier to make another cold call when you're picturing the leather interior you're working toward.
that immediate translation from an abstract desire to a concrete image, that's the pivot point, isn't it?
It is.
If the goal is just be successful, your subconscious has nothing to latch onto. If the goal is the red RX-8, registration number XYZ, suddenly it becomes real.
Exactly. And the second crucial function of that specificity is attainability. The source makes a point of comparing his current car, which was a hatchback Mazda 3, to the RX-8.
So it was a definite upgrade, a status symbol, a sports car, for sure.
But it was within the realm of possibility. It was a step, not a superhuman leap.
Right. Going from a basement apartment to a $10 million mansion in one shot is, well, it's mentally paralyzing for most people.
But the Mazda 3 to the RX-8, that provides an achievable scale. It's a believable next milestone.
It allows your mind to accept the goal not as a fantasy, but as a logical extension of your current reality, provided you change your habits.
And that scale of possibility is what launches us straight into the mental game. The foundation is set. I own my failures and successes, habit 1, and I have mapped my exact destination, habit 2.
So now, how do we get the brain to believe that destination is not only real, but inevitable?
Well, the first step in that conditioning is habit number 3, belief and possibility. Once that specific goal is defined, the RX-8, not a spaceship, the mental barrier immediately shifts. It goes from can it be done to can I do it?
And that self-directed belief is often the biggest hurdle. I mean, we can all readily believe Jeff Bezos can achieve immense success, but applying that same possibility to our own situation, especially after 13 failures, it just feels fundamentally different.
It requires a deliberate choice to suspend your own disbelief about yourself. And because the RX-8 was such a logical upgrade from the Mazda 3, it was easier for the entrepreneur to construct a believable narrative for himself.
It builds that crucial mental momentum.
Right. He could trace the steps.
Yeah.
If I do A and then B and then C, this result must follow.
And this caps directly into all that classical success literature which the source actually referenced. We're talking about Napoleon Hill's foundational concept from Think and Grow Rich.
Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, you can achieve.
And the key word there is believe.
It is. It's not just conceiving the idea, it's embedding it into your operating system. If you conceive it but you doubt it, the energy driving your actions is going to be inconsistent.
But if you conceive it and you truly believe it's possible for you,
Then your mind starts looking for evidence and pathways to make it real instead of looking for excuses for why it can't happen.
so once that seed of personal possibility is planted, we move into the active cultivation phase, which is habit number 4, visualizing success.
And this is not casual daydreaming. This is deliberate, high-sensory, daily mental rehearsal.
The entrepreneur took some incredibly practical steps here. He didn't just write down RX8.
No, he actively cut out a photo of the red RX-8 from a magazine and placed it right on his vision board. But the visual object was just the catalyst for the deeper practice.
And that's where the real commitment came in. The source emphasizes the daily ritual, closing his eyes and using all 5 senses in the visualization.
It was seeing his hands gripping the stick shift, feeling the texture of the leather seats, hearing the specific sound of that rotary engine winding up.
And maybe most importantly, smelling the new car leather.
The sensory detail is everything, because the brain registers highly detailed sensory experiences as reality. The goal wasn't just to see the car, it was to mentally rehearse the experience of owning it.
And this was repeated every single day until the image was so vividly etched into his mind that it felt like a memory, not a fantasy.
And there was a critical emotional component to it too, feeling like he deserved it.
That's a big one. After years of failure, your subconscious is often convinced it deserves punishment, not reward.
So the visualization practice was also an exercise in self-worth. It was making the feeling of success familiar and comfortable.
This is the neurological hack, really. You're mentally rehearsing the achievement so many times that when it finally manifests in reality, your mind doesn't react with shock or panic.
It just accepts it as the normal, inevitable culmination of events, which leads us directly to the external projection of that internal belief.
Habit number 5, acting as if.
Okay, acting as if is often misinterpreted. Isn't there a risk of being seen as, arrogant? Or losing credibility if you're projecting success you haven't actually earned yet? How does the source differentiate this from just outright delusion?
That is an excellent question, and the distinction is crucial. It is not about deceiving others, it's about conditioning yourself.
Okay.
The typical person waits for the external results, the money in the bank, the job title, the car, to feel deserving and to act confident.
Right, the result comes first, the feeling comes second.
Successful people reverse the sequence. They act confident and deserving now, which changes their internal emotional state, and that in turn influences their actions and their behavior. So it's not about telling people you have $1 million when you don't.
No.
It's about conducting yourself with the professionalism and the certainty of a person who is guaranteed to hit that goal.
Precisely. And the anecdote from the source really illustrates this perfectly. Every time the entrepreneur was driving with his friends and they saw a red RX-8 on the road.
Even though he was still in his little hatchback Mazda 3.
Right. He would loudly state, "Hey, that's my car right there."
His friends must have thought he had finally snapped after those 13 failures.
Oh, they did. But it didn't matter. He was acting and talking as if the outcome was a certainty, a done deal that just hadn't been delivered yet.
That practice reinforces the belief in the visualization. It creates a psychological certainty.
It does. The mind struggles to hold contradictory thoughts.
Right.
So if you constantly act like a successful person, your mind eventually has no choice but to start generating the behaviors that align with that successful identity.
So we've covered the first 5 steps, and they're all about this intense internal conditioning. Ownership, specificity, belief, visualization, and identity alignment.
And now the heavy lifting starts.
Yeah, it's time to move from the mind to the market. Habit number 6 is, it's maybe the simplest concept, but it's the hardest one to execute. Willingness to pay the price.
The dream is built, now the debt has to be settled in effort and sacrifice.
Dreaming is free, right?
Yeah.
But the RX-8, or any significant goal, it comes with a quantifiable cost.
And the source emphasizes that once the mental prep is done, you have to immediately translate that dream into an action plan with real-world financial metrics.
And this is where the specificity of habit 2 really pays off. The first practical step was calculating the precise cost. He figured out the exact down payment required.
And then the exact monthly payment that would be needed to maintain the vehicle.
And this is where the abstract goal becomes a concrete revenue target.
Exactly. If the monthly payment was, say, $600, he knew he needed to generate at least $600 of profit just for the car plus enough to live on and save.
It instantly creates daily and weekly income goals. It shifts the focus from, I hope I make some money, to, I must secure X dollars today.
Now we get to the sacrifice part, and this is what separates the dreamers from the doers.
The source material draws a very stark, very necessary contrast between the entrepreneur's new regimen and the lifestyle of his peers.
The sacrifice was comprehensive. While his friends were going to pubs, spending money, wasting time on leisure, just maintaining a standard young adult social life.
He was working.
He was working long hours. The source details this, working every single day, often with no break, no time off, and severely limiting his social life. That time became the currency of his ambition.
We probably make this tangible for the listener. What was the nature of that sacrifice? Was it just time, or did it affect his relationships too?
The source material implies a total trade-off. It's the sacrifice of immediate gratification. It's the sacrifice of sleep when you have to. It's the choice to decline almost all social engagements that don't directly contribute to the goal.
So when you calculate the true price of success, you realize it's not just money. It's the opportunity cost of all the other things you could be doing with those hours.
And this is the critical juncture for every listener to internalize. The entrepreneur had to ask himself, and we have to ask ourselves, what price are you willing to pay for success?
And more importantly, what are you willing to give up or sacrifice today?
Because that trade-off is unavoidable. You can have high leisure and low output, or you can have high output and low leisure.
And the success trajectory demands you consciously choose to trade the comfort of today for the capability of tomorrow.
That level of discipline sacrifice is habit 6 in action.
But even when you're fully committed, you're paying the price with grueling hours. The mental demons don't just vanish. The process of executing often triggers immense fear.
Which leads us to habit number 7, feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
We really have to actively debunk this myth that successful people are fearless.
It's utterly false. The source confirms they experience fears, they have doubts, they're nervous when making massive decisions, they're human. The difference lies solely in their reaction to that fear.
So the crucial distinction isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to manage the paralysis that fear often induces.
Right. They don't let the fear dictate their actions. They acknowledge it, and they proceed in spite of it.
And the source gives a specific and frankly terrifying example.
The need to cold call business owners to get clients. Cold calling is universally dreaded. It is a direct conduit for rejection, which is painful.
Oh yeah. He admitted he was nervous, he was afraid of rejection, and he hated picking up the phone.
That's a situation where most people would procrastinate. You clean your desk, you reorganize your files, you do anything but make that call.
Anything.
The fear tries to create a stall, but the habit here is the disciplined response. It wasn't about waiting until the fear went away.
It was a mantra. I feel the fear and I do it anyway.
He created a routine around persistent action. He focused on the volume and the consistency rather than the immediate outcome of each call.
So how do you actually do that? How do you override the fear and force yourself to take that first step?
The source suggests a focus on process over outcome. So if the goal is make 50 calls, you're focusing on a measurable action you can control, not an uncontrollable result like getting a client.
I see.
And by prioritizing sheer volume, you normalize the rejection. The fear diminishes not because the situation gets less scary, but because the repetition proves that the fear cannot physically harm you.
So it transforms the feeling of fear from a stop sign
into a warning sign that you're moving in the right direction. You're moving out of your comfort zone.
So habit 7 is essentially a muscle of courage that you have to build through repetition, consistently choosing action over paralysis.
Exactly. We've moved from internal prep, habits 1 to 5, through grueling execution 6 and 7. Now we need to look at the external scaffolding needed for long-term growth.
So as the execution gets underway, you inevitably hit roadblocks. You run into problems that require knowledge you just don't possess.
And that necessitates habit number 8, seeking mentorship.
This habit is entirely dependent on humility, which is why it so often conflicts with habit 1, radical ownership.
It does. And the source delivers a profound warning about what it calls the ego trap. Unsuccessful people often carry a very large, very fragile ego.
And the source has that fantastic line, your ego is not your amigo. Your ego is not your friend. Your ego will destroy you.
So how does the ego sabotage the pursuit of success specifically?
Well, the ego insists that you already know the answers, that your way is the best way, even when you're faced with empirical evidence of failure.
13 failures worth of evidence.
Right. The entrepreneur had to finally admit that his current knowledge set was flawed. His ego tried to convince him that reaching out to Alan was a sign of weakness, but he pushed past that.
And seeking Alan, his first mentor, that was the turning point. That's what provided the proven roadmap, the mindset correction, and the crucial skills he needed to finally get the RX-8.
It's the acknowledgement that expertise requires external input. It's believing that you can significantly accelerate your learning curve by finding someone who has already done what you're trying to do and just letting them guide you.
It's the embodiment of intellectual humility. The source's insight here is so powerful. The more you learn, the more you realize how little that you know.
No one knows everything.
No one. A mentor provides strategic perspective, they hold you accountable to the price you committed to paying, and they offer efficient solutions that can save you years of wasted effort.
And crucially, the mentor provides context for the inevitable setbacks.
Which brings us right to the connection between failure and sustained energy, or, habit number 9, having enthusiasm.
Because mentorship doesn't eliminate failure, but it does change your approach to it.
Right. It teaches you to fail forward. The source cites Winston Churchill's definition of success. Success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm.
That enthusiasm, that high energy, it's the shock absorber for all the inevitable hits you're going to take.
It really is. And the source material observed a direct, fascinating correlation between energy and success metrics.
High-income, high-achieving people typically operate with high energy.
And conversely, low-income people often exhibit low energy. They lack that vitality, that stamina, and therefore their productivity is lower.
We're not talking about like manic energy here.
No, not at all. We're talking about sustained vitality and a genuine interest. Enthusiasm and passion, they act as the fuel for all the other habits.
So when you face that rejection from cold calling from habit 7, or when you're just exhausted from the sacrifice in habit 6,
Enthusiasm is what drives you back to the desk.
you might not be the most skilled or technically perfect person in your field right now. But if you approach your work with incredible passion and belief, that sheer energy will often compensate for skill gaps and ultimately drive better outcomes.
It's the key habit that keeps the entire engine running smoothly. And that high energy enables the willingness to learn, which brings us to the final and most enduring habit.
Right. Habit number 10, the commitment to constant improvement.
This reveals that the RX-8 wasn't the end goal. It was just a milestone on a perpetually upward path.
As soon as the RX-8 was achieved, he didn't relax. He immediately pivoted to setting the next goal. A Mercedes, an Audi R8, a Bentley.
Successful people inherently understand that the pursuit itself, the act of continuous growth, is the primary habit. They never stop, they never plateau.
And the source draws a perfect relatable parallel here. If your goal is to be a master chef, you obsessively study recipes, techniques, the work of other great chefs.
Success has to be treated the same way. If you want to be successful, you must make success a serious, dedicated subject that you study, analyze, and constantly put effort into.
So this commitment means setting aside time every single day for self-education, whether that's studying finance or leadership or health or communication.
The ultimate goal is always identity-based. It's about becoming a better version of yourself. If you're improving your physical health by studying nutrition and fitness, or improving your wealth by studying business strategy, the habit is the same.
It's the commitment to perpetual motion towards self-mastery.
It changes the entire focus. It shifts from how much money can I make to how much better can I become today.
And the money, the cars, the accolades, they just become the measurements of the progress you've made on that journey of self-improvement. So let's look at the culmination of all 10 of these habits. After all the sacrifices, the intense visualization, the relentless cold calling, the mentorship, the entrepreneur finally walked into the dealership to pick up his red RX-8.
And the source describes this moment with fascinating detail. Because he'd been visualizing for so long and had done multiple test drives, the paperwork was super quick. He drove the car off the lot.
Fully expecting, I'd imagine, that kind of massive, euphoric moment you see in the movies.
Absolutely. But the feeling he describes was something entirely unexpected and, frankly, much deeper.
What did he feel?
He felt not wild excitement, but profound peace and incredible calmness.
Peace. That is not what you'd expect.
It's not. But that calm is the ultimate proof of concept for the effectiveness of the entire system.
So why the peace?
Because of the intense mental conditioning, the visualization from habit 4 and the acting as if from habit 5 had created a state of déjà vu.
His mind had already experienced the successful outcome hundreds of times.
Exactly. So when it finally happened in reality, it just felt normal. It felt like the inevitable, expected conclusion of a carefully executed plan.
It validates that whole idea that true success happens inside your head long before it ever manifests externally.
The psychological groundwork makes the external achievement an inevitability, not a surprising stroke of luck.
And that gives us the final synthesis of the whole stack, right?
Yeah. You start with radical responsibility and a specific goal. You fuel it with belief, visualization, and aligned identity.
Then you execute it through sacrifice and courage.
Leveraging mentorship and enthusiasm, all with a commitment to constant improvement.
This systematic approach is what turns effort into reliable results. It ensures that the person who eventually drives off in that RX-8 is an entirely different, highly disciplined individual than the one who failed 13 businesses.
For sure. This deep dive, it wasn't just about theory. It was about presenting a process that's structured for immediate implementation.
So here's the final provocative thought for you, the listener, to carry forward. The source material notes that upon achieving this long-desired tangible object, the RX-8, the symbol of his success, the entrepreneur's first impulse wasn't to just bask in the glory.
No, it was immediately to set the next material goal. The Mercedes, the R8, the Bentley.
So if the true reward of the process is that feeling of peace, the self-improvement, the realization that you have become the person capable of achieving these things, which he felt immediately.
What then is the ultimate purpose of the object itself?
Is the habit of seeking improvement inherently more fulfilling than the outcome it produces? And how does that realization change your current definition of success?
That's a powerful lens through which to view your own goals. The ultimate prize is the person you become while you're seeking it.
Thank you for sharing your source material for this intensive deep dive into the 10 essential habits of success. We hope this exploration provides you with a robust, actionable roadmap for your own breakthrough.
And don't feel overwhelmed by the 10. As the source suggests, just pick one to master today. Maybe it's habit 1, taking 100% responsibility for everything in your life.
Or habit 2, deciding exactly, excruciatingly what you want. Start there, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.